in jail, I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Get it right.
We gonna get it right. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host and Chief White House Correspondent, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, joining you live in Los Angeles. It is good to be home. It is good to be with each and every one of you on this busy news day. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and boom, bam, boom. There I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app. Download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or guess what? You can just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never, ever miss an episode. And have you been rolling around town lately? Have you seen our new billboards lately? For those that are streaming on YouTube, you can see that I'm holding up it's an ad. Thanks for the applause, Andy. This is the back page of Our Weekly Los Angeles, one of the community papers, where you see our ad that's running, featuring Tavis Smiley, Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, Zoe Williams, and myself. Simply saying, why talk about Black men when you can talk with Black men? That's what we are doing here at KBLA. And so if you see our billboard ad around town, snap a picture and tag us in it, and listen for us to shout you out on social media or right here on the airwaves. We certainly appreciate the love and intend to give that love right on back. Now, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, beware, everybody. Beware of these ICE raids out there. NBC News reporting that there are a number of cities where ICE raids are taking place following President Trump's return to office. Immigration enforcement operations have started to sweep through major U.S. cities. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, said it arrested 956 people on Sunday, but an NBC News report found that immigration authorities had close to, get this, 1,200 arrests that day, and just 613, or nearly 52%, were considered criminal arrests. So guess what? They're all not criminal arrests. You know, a slim majority is, but they're not all criminal arrests. The rest appeared to be non-violent offenders, or people who have not committed any criminal offense other than crossing the border illegally. Being undocumented is considered a civil offense, not a crime. This is an important distinction. I don't know about y'all, but I had a chance to watch the White House press briefing today. It was the first press briefing of the Trump administration's second term. And the press secretary said in no uncertain terms that they consider undocumented folks criminals. And she considers them criminals because, in the view of the Trump White House, if they cross the border illegally, then they are criminals. They deem them as having violated the law. But you don't just get to make these things up. You don't get to make these things up. Again, nonviolent offenders, people who haven't committed any criminal offense other than crossing the border illegally, being undocumented is considered a civil offense, not a crime. So to call them criminals is inaccurate. Arrest numbers swelled again the following day, as the agency said it made a little over 1,100 arrests, and 853 detainers were logged on Monday. And so this is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. Where are they rounding people up? New York City. These are some of the major cities where arrests have unfolded. New York City, also Chicago, but right here in Los Angeles. In fact, the Los Angeles Office of Homeland Security investigations and the DEA said that they were working with partners to conduct law enforcement operations in accordance with the Trump administration's immigration priorities. The office shared photos of law enforcement agents taking people into custody. The city council formally adopted a sanctuary city ordinance late last year that prohibits city resources or personnel for being used to aid in federal enforcement of immigration laws. But that's being tested. That's being tested right now. We're going to keep our finger on this, but also know that cities like Phoenix, San Diego, Denver, Miami, Atlanta, as well as various other cities in Texas, Seattle, San Juan, Puerto Rico. These are the places where ICE agents are fanning out, and so beware. Moving along, former OpenAI safety researcher brands pace of AI development as terrifying. Now, remember, I said, the first week that Trump took office, there's lots of talk, lots of reports around all the executive orders he was signing, particularly around the birthright citizenship, the challenge to birthright citizenship. Yes, that particular executive order deserves a lot of attention, but a lot of them are going to get caught up in the courts. And so, yes, he signed over 300 executive orders, but how many of them will actually stick? It's unknown. But he did make an announcement about this public-private partnership to build these AI data centers starting in Texas, and really a concerted effort to be the AI president. And that has a lot of people feeling a little uneasy. In fact, a former safety researcher at OpenAI says that he's pretty terrified about the pace of developments in artificial intelligence, warning the industry is taking a very risky gamble on technology. Stephen Adler expressed concerns about companies seeking to rapidly develop artificial intelligence, a theoretical term referring to systems that match or exceed humans at any intellectual task. In fact, it's artificial general intelligence, AGI. Some experts, such as Nobel Prize winner Geoffrey Hinton, fear that powerful AI systems could evade human control with potentially catastrophic consequences. Others, such as Meta's chief AI scientist, Yann LeCun, have played down the existential threat, saying AI could actually save humanity from extinction. And so, different points of view on this. But look, as long as you do it out in the open, as long as you're transparent about what's going on, as long as we can agree on what the rules of the road are going to be in terms of how we govern the use of AI, as long as we're clear on disclosing when AI has been used, as long as we can make clear when we're on social media, which images and videos are real versus which ones are deep fakes. As long as we can be clear on that, then, I think we can manage the risk of the use of AI. But if we're obscuring that, if we are not being clear about those things, then we are in for a heck of a ride. Finally, Atlanta's homeless nonprofit faces daunting future after a federal grant pause. Jimmy Evans is somebody who was unclear whether he could still get his federal funding account from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. His account was, quotes, down for maintenance, according to the website, but he started calling around to other leaders of state agencies and local nonprofits working on homelessness and disability health, substance abuse treatment, disability services, and the story was the same. The federal government was closed for business. Soon enough, his agency might be as well. Just on Monday night, just last night, the White House instructed agencies to pause all federal grants while evaluating whether the programs met the ideological standards of the administration. Ideological, including but not limited to financial assistance for foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, DEI, what they call woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. That's according to the memo issued by the Office of Management and Budget. Federal grants and loans represent about $3 of every 10 the federal government spends. The memo instructs agencies not to freeze funding that supports Medicare, Social Security, and direct assistance to individuals. Well, we have an update for you. Shortly before we went on air, a judge has temporarily blocked Trump's policy that aimed at freezing federal grant funding. We're going to get the skinny on that and so many more trending political headlines with Ashley Banks, our Capitol Hill correspondent. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Okay, we got to change.
Is she not available? Where is she?
I had to follow up with her, and she thought she wanted to get a rundown of the topics. It was me. It was completely me. So now I'm here.
So she can't do this?
She doesn't know the topics.
It's the biggest story that's trending today. Well, you should tell her I just announced her on air. Andy, buy me time. Buy me a couple minutes. Also, what the fuck was she want to talk about?
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and Ashley Banks, our Capitol Hill correspondent, was pulled away, but I'm so glad that Richard A. Fowler, no stranger to us here, Fox News contributor, has decided to join us to react to some of the biggest trending headlines today. Richard, welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a day in the news, to say the least.
I mean, to say the least. Well, just to catch everyone up, USA Today is reporting that a judge temporarily blocked Trump's policy that aimed at freezing federal grant funding. That's right. A federal judge temporarily blocked a Trump administration policy that aimed to review grants and loans to ensure that they complied with his priorities, which lawmakers and legal experts blasted as unconstitutional. The lawsuit challenging the policy, announced in President Trump's second week back in office, hit the docket less than 24 hours after news of the policy became public. U.S. District Judge Lauren Ali Khan ordered the Trump administration not to halt grant funding until at least February 3rd, when another hearing will be held on the dispute. Richard, is this Trump's first bit of bad news in his second term?
No, I mean, I think the first bit of bad news for him was that another judge blocked his executive order sort of banning birthright citizenship. But I do think this sort of points to what will be part of the Donald Trump White House strategy when it comes to news days like this. Let's remember how this morning started. A couple of hours prior to, so Trump sort of issues this order. This order comes as two of his more unpopular appointees or potential appointees are getting ready to hit Capitol Hill. Well, three actually, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., and Seth Patel, and Kash Patel are all getting ready to be heard on Capitol Hill. Also today, there was an executive order banning trans folks from serving in the military. But the story that we're talking about was a federal freeze on grant and loans being spent. So I think this is part of the Trump strategy, right? Is we will flood the zone with a lot of things so that they'll pick one thing and not all the things. And let's be very clear, it's effective because we're talking about one of the things and not all of the things.
Well, you're orienting us to all of the things. And so right here on A More Perfect Union, we're talking about all the things. I can't speak for some of our colleagues on other networks, but I can say that there's a lot of concern out there. There's a lot of concern. I watched today's press briefing as you did. And I've got to say that the new press secretary was impressive. I got to give it to her. She was impressive. That was probably the largest number of people I've seen in the press briefing room in recent memory. And she worked the room from the front row to the sides to the back. Talk to us about what we might expect from this White House press secretary, which, you know, a lot of people didn't know what to expect because she's 27 years old. She's the youngest White House press secretary. You know, she doesn't have a big body of work, but she has the trust of President Trump. What do you think we can expect from her?
Look, I agree with you. I think obviously tonight, her first performance was a show to an audience of one, which is the sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I would argue by every, if you understand the man, by every sort of measure, she did exactly what you need to do. She held her own in a room of veterans. She sort of knew everybody's name, which is sort of part of the job. And she did pretty good on what would have been a tough news day for any press secretary. And I think you can't really, I'll use a quote from former President Joe Biden: "Don't judge me to the almighty, judge me by who I'm up against," right? And I think you have to judge her by the climate that we're in, right? And if you judge her by how Democrats responded to the day, she was exceptional, right? Because I thought the Democratic response, which I think we're finally starting to see, right? Democrats sort of woke up from their slumber tonight, maybe around 5 or 6 o'clock, when you saw, you know, Elizabeth Warren take to cable later this evening, Letitia James and Gretchen Whitmer will take to television. But Democrats sort of saw this, and there was a reaction from Chuck Schumer. But once again, what the Trump team is trying to paint for the American audience is these critical juxtapositions. And I think for the KBLA audience, especially, I want y'all to understand how the Trump machine works a little bit. I don't speak Trump, but I've spent a lot of time at the Fox News channel and sort of truly understand how conservatives move. And I think what they're going, how they plan on winning a lot of these news days is through visuals, right? Like Beyonce didn't give us the visuals, but the Trump team are going to do their best to give the American people the visuals that they want to see. So what you saw today was a 27-year-old young girl, or young woman rather, sort of really talk about what Trump's vision was. The other thing they did today was they gave you a newly minted Homeland Security Secretary dressed up in an ICE uniform at a raid, right? Kristi Noem. And in response to that, Democrats were sort of slow to the pass. There was a press conference with Chuck Schumer where he talked about his grandson losing his tooth. And you're just like, wait, what are you talking about? We're talking about freezing of federal grant aid. And you sort of went off on a diatribe about your grandson losing his tooth. And I think that's the juxtaposition they're trying to paint. We're young, we're in charge, and we look good doing it. And on the opposite end of this, you see sort of a party and a minority party in disarray. And I think there's a lot of folks who felt that, a lot of folks who feel in this moment that the Democratic Party is a little flat-footed. I mean, I'm being nice. Some people feel the Democratic Party is in disarray. Other people think the Democratic Party is a little flat-footed. Either way, I think a lot of folks out there feel like the Democratic Party in this moment isn't responding to the time.
Well, I think there are a number of people that feel like there are a number of dumpster fires that have been lit. One includes at the National Labor Relations Board, as President Trump has fired the National Labor Relations Board Democrats, Wilcox and Abruzzo. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Plus, the Trump White House expects up to 10% of federal employees to quit in a buyout program. We're going to get the skinny on whether or not this is good politics, good policy, or neither. We're talking to Richard A. Fowler, Fox News contributor, and you're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice. You tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The city of Denver, Colorado is settling another lawsuit related to police actions taken during the 2020 protests over the death of George Floyd. The city council approved $980,000 settlement Monday. A grassroots effort is underway to boycott companies that have dropped their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Among them is Target. Los Angeles Urban Policy Roundtable President Earl O'Farrill Hutchison says he doesn't have a problem with the hiring based on merit, but says diversity is the top-down problem. New York City Mayor Eric Adams won't appear in federal court on Wednesday. Adams' scheduled appearance in a federal court case has been waived as the mayor reportedly undergoes several doctor's appointments. A spokesperson for the mayor says Adams hasn't been feeling well. Florida is the best place to retire in 2025. That's according to a new study by Wallet Hub. I'm Tyreek Wynn on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
West LA police activity on the 10, right at the 405 on the westbound side. That's where the right lane is blocked. And delays are backing up out of Mid-City. Currently, we're seeing a delay away from just about Robertson. Eastbound slowing out of Santa Monica, leaving Cloverfield, slammed all the way to the scene of this police activity. And beyond, it's still pretty slow moving all the way to the 5 in Boyle Heights, Pasadena, 210 eastbound. That's pushing back from just about Lincoln, and you're on the brakes pretty heavy ahead to Citrus. And also Anaheim, 91 eastbound, delays from Kramer Glassell to Green River.
Del Taco's new Chipotle Chicken Burrito and Bean Rice and Cheese Burrito, packed with flavor, made with fresh ingredients, and found on Del's Real Deals menu. You heard that right. These burritos on a value meal with everything under $3. Look at Del Taco, hooking us up.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A message to Lakers and Clippers Nation. Keep your radar up on the Jimmy Butler situation. The Miami Heat suspended Butler for the third time this month after he walked out of practice on Monday. The six-time NBA All-Star has been trying to get traded after making a trade demand on January 2nd. Butler wants to go to a contending team in the Western Conference. Because of his $49 million salary, it will take at least 3 teams, maybe 4, to make a trade work. The trade deadline is February 6th. LeBron has made it clear he is not impressed with the way the Lakers roster is constructed. He would welcome a move by the front office to improve the roster. The issue for the Lakers and Clippers is whether they would be willing to give up 2 or 3 players to get Butler. Miami GM Pat Riley has lowered his asking price for Butler in the last few days, which could make the Lakers and Clippers more interested. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you a recent college graduate with a dream of getting a high-paying job in sales? A job where you can grow a lucrative career in multi-platform audio, digital, podcast, social media, and local events, along with world-class training and career growth opportunities. KBLA Talk 1580, located in historic Leimert Park, is currently hiring entry-level account executives for outside sales. Join a team featuring radio hosts Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, Zoe Williams, and our very own Dominique DePrima. For more information on attending our upcoming career fair, contact SMB at KBLA1580.com today. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you.
All right,
Or hop
we're
on the
coming
data
up.
wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget
Back
to
in
join
30
the party on
seconds.
Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Richard A. Fowler. He's a Fox News contributor, one of the liberal contributors on Fox News, might I add. He's also a Forbes contributing writer, and he is no stranger to us here on A More Perfect Union. Richard, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So Trump has fired the EEOC and labor board officials, really setting up a legal fight. It really wasn't a surprise that President Trump fired the National Labor Relations Board General Counsel. She was a Biden appointee who had used the agency to expand workers' rights, but Trump went further, firing Democratic board member Gwen Wilcox, and in an unprecedented move that she's vowed to fight in court. And due to the existing vacancies, get this, Wilcox ouster leaves the board with just 2 members, short of the quorum it needs to adjudicate even routine cases. And with this move, Trump has effectively shut down the National Labor Review Board's operations, leaving the workers it defends on their own. That's what the AFL-CIO president said in a statement. Talk to us about the far-reaching ramifications of this in the labor movement. We've seen in recent years sort of a resurgence amongst organized labor. What does this move do to that movement?
This actually comes as workers at a Whole Foods store in Pennsylvania yesterday voted to unionize, the first Whole Foods store to do so. So I think it's crippling for a movement that is seeing more and more popularity. More and more folks want to join a labor movement. But I think we have to go backwards to go forwards on this story, because the 2 vacancies that are on the National Labor Relations Board, California Congressman Ro Khanna actually gave an interview on this in December, where he begged the Biden administration to fill those 2 vacancies. He begged them to fill those 2 vacancies before Democrats lost the gavel to Republicans at the turn of the year, and his call sort of fell on deaf ears, and the Biden administration decided not. These are vacancies that have been there way before Trump became president of the United States, and the Biden team could have filled those 2 vacancies, and for some reason they chose not to. And so now what Donald Trump has done, because he knows he likely cannot get the 60 votes he needs to sort of pass a filibuster on 2 more nominees, is I'm just going to actually disable the National Labor Relations Board. So now it does not work. And if it doesn't work, you can't bring a labor dispute to them. You can't, like, if a company does not want you to form a labor union, you can't go to them and complain about it. They're now a defunct organization. And I'd rather defunct them than make them useful. And this is an opportunity for Democrats, or it should be an opportunity for Democrats, because Donald Trump has traveled around the country. I mean, this past week he was in Las Vegas convincing culinary workers that he was the president of the working class, the president of folks who need to join a labor movement to make extra wages. But if you're the president of the working class, why don't you believe in the National Labor Relations Board? And this is an argument that Democrats should be making. They should be yelling from the highest mountain about this particular argument. Yes, it's very in the weeds, but if you understand what the Labor Relations Board does and the impact that it has for workers all across this country, then you would understand its importance for everyday Americans who want to join a union.
That's right. And it's also important for our leaders, learners, and listeners to know that since the appointments of these 2 folks, Wilcox and Abruzzo, they've taken broad views of the protections of labor laws, the protection that labor laws offer workers, right? And so this is about protecting workers. So the people that were put there, the people that took this broad view around protecting workers, and might I add, Wilcox, who's a former union lawyer, who wrote that as the first Black woman to serve on the labor board, that she brought a unique perspective that she believes was lost, right? And so, this is a hit on multiple fronts, not just folks having a broad view, broad interpretation of protections for workers, but the perspective of a Black woman, which I couldn't believe had never been on the labor board before. And so we know that issue will continue to work its way out in the courts. But right now, group chats among federal government employees are going off left and right because of this news that broke just this afternoon, where the Trump White House expects up to 10% of federal employees to quit in a buyout program. A government-wide email will soon be going out for full-time folks in the office, offering them a chance to be a part of this deferred resignation program beginning on today. This is where it's been offered today. It ends on February 6th. So folks have about a week to decide whether or not they're going to take advantage of this buyback program or walk the plank.
Look, Donald Trump is dead set on shrinking the federal government. He said he ran on this. So there's nothing that the president is doing in this moment that should surprise anybody. Everything he said he was going to do, he's doing. And I think in this moment, as we were on day 8 or day 9 of the Trump administration, hope for the folks listening, go back and watch one of these guys' rallies if you can endure it, right? And everything he says he's going to do, he's doing. And part of it is shrinking the federal workforce. I think many of the folks that will likely take these buyouts are folks that are probably a year away from retirement, right? That's how they're probably going to get that. I'm assuming that's how the Office of Personnel, the White House Personnel Office, is getting to that number. I think there's enough people in the system that are 8 months away, 7 months away, 6 months away, 5 months away from retirement that say, listen, I could sit at home, I can get paid from now until the end of the government fiscal year, and I can retire. Oh, this is a win-win. I'm going home to hug my grandbabies. I'll holler at you later.
Well, speaking of wins, how much of a win is this for billionaire businessman Elon Musk, who, as you know, heads Trump's Department of Government Efficiency? He's talked about a drastic reduction of the federal workforce to scale back the size of government. Is this potentially one of the first big wins for Elon Musk, who some Democrats refer to as President Musk?
Oh, I think this is a win for Elon Musk, right? Because he's going to be able to say, and Trump will be able to say at his next rally at an arena near you, that yes, we have shrunk the size of the federal government. Look, we have shrunk it by 10%. They're not going to tell you that a majority of the folks that decided to take these buyouts are individuals that were planning to retire in March, or planning to retire in April, or planning to retire in May. So they're actually getting more money to take this buyout than they would have if they were going to just say, oh, I'm just going to take, put in my notice a month before my retirement date, right? So I'm assuming that's how they're getting to this 10% number. I haven't looked at the math yet, but being in Washington D.C. long enough, I'm assuming that's how they plan to get to this 10% number. They probably have looked and said, we think about 10% of these people have reached their 20-year mark in federal service, and they're at 59 years old or older, and they'll take this money and skip on into retirement happiness.
So for folks who are a little less familiar with your body of work, before you were ever a Fox News contributor, before you ever were a contributing writer for Forbes, you came out of the organized labor movement. We worked with the American Federation of Teachers. And so I know I'm talking to the right person in terms of getting a viewpoint that's reflective of leaders in organized labor. We know in response to this, as reported by USA Today, the American Federation of Government Employees, the largest federal employee union representing about 800,000 workers, they slammed the buyout, noting that the federal workforce is about the same size as it was in 1970, even though more Americans rely on government services. The national president said in a statement that, quotes, purging the federal government of dedicated career civil servants will have vast unintended consequences that will cause chaos for the Americans who depend on a functioning federal government. Does that argument hold? Will it hold?
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, but this is something that we've seen before. This is the same thing that we see when you see many of the moves to privatize public education. It's very simple. First, you underfund the thing. While you're underfunding the thing, then you demonize the people that work in the thing. And after you underfund the thing and you demonize the people that work for the thing, then you point to some private alternative that's better than the thing. This is what happens all across the board. We see them doing it to public schools. We've seen them do that to the Department of Veteran Affairs. We've seen them do this to many public. We've seen them do this to public utilities across the board. This is something that we see constantly done by folks in the right to privatize things that have always been public goods. And so this is not shocking that they're also now deploying the same strategy when it comes to the federal government. So we're going to shrink the size of the federal government, and we're going to tell federal workers not to communicate with the outside world, not to communicate with contractors that they're supposed to hold accountable, right? And so when the contractors fail, or when they don't communicate about maybe the largest tuberculosis outbreaks in the 1950s happening in Kansas, then look, they're not working. It doesn't work well. You see, it's so terrible. It's bad. It's awful, right? But this is nothing new, because every 2 years, the Republicans have tried to shut down the federal government. It's like, oh, look, we can shut it down and it doesn't work. See? And then we'll say, well, this is why we should privatize it and give this to a private company, or give this part of it to a private company, or sell this off to a private company. So this is something that we've seen before, and it happens in a lot of different public sectors. And what we know to be true is it's very rare that the private sector is good at doing the thing, especially when it comes to doing the thing for vulnerable communities.
So in our final minutes with you, Richard, I want to give you a chance to share with us something that we don't already know. I really sort of enjoy creating space where our community of leaders, learners, and listeners get a line of sight to things that are important to them, issues that may impact their families. One of the things I said at the top of the show is that, Trump's first week in office, of all the executive orders that were signed and all the announcements that were made, I thought the one thing that didn't get nearly enough coverage was his announcement of this public-private partnership in artificial intelligence and this effort to build these AI data centers starting in Texas and then going beyond, this $500 billion investment and counting. We got to keep our eye on that. But what are you seeing that's not getting nearly enough attention?
I think what's not getting enough attention at this moment is the State Department's decision to freeze all foreign aid for a 90-day period. And there's a number of reasons why we should watch this space. Because I think that, coupled with Donald Trump's decision to leave the World Health Organization, can have, and don't get me wrong, I think the World Health Organizations have had glaring missteps, both from the COVID-19 pandemic as well as other global diseases. So I'm not going to say the World Health Organization is perfect. They're not. But I think those two things coupled together could create a world of hurt, both for public health, but also for the fact that if we can all agree that China is our number one global foe, what we know to be true is that China is making major investments, both in the Caribbean, in South America, in parts of on the continent of Africa. And just a point of fact, right? China's largest embassy, if you were guessing, you would not guess right. China's largest embassy is currently in the Bahamas, where they're making major foreign investments. And so if we're going to freeze all of our foreign aid because we want to live in Trump's transactional world where you have to do something for America for us to do something for you, then it's actually a short-sighted policy, given that the Chinese government is making large investments building highways, road projects, embassies, buying hotels all throughout the majority Black part of the world. And if America steps back from that investment, what we will see is China's role expand, America's role decrease. And then I think that will have a huge impact on American foreign policy moving forward.
Our foreign allies, they do matter. And so do all the gems that Richard Fowler shares with us. Our thanks to Richard A. Fowler, Fox News contributor and contributing writer for Forbes. Thank you, my friend. Come back again soon.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
This is attention, Los Angeles County renters and landlords. Starting January 1st, 2025, there are new rules limiting rent increases for rent-stabilized units in unincorporated LA County. Most rent-stabilized units will have rent increases capped at 2.565% from January through June 2025, with exceptions for qualified small property landlords and luxury units. To learn more about the new changes, visit rent.lacounty.gov. This message is brought to you by Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prison. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, educated newspaper that focuses on providing user-friendly information to people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting stories on the California Crusader newspaper community share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's cal-cruise-news.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Live at 30.
This is KBLA Talk Radio. The music to you here is here. We're unapologetic.
And speaking of doing our work to build a more perfect union, I don't know about you, but seeing some of these headlines that have been trending related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, people saying bye-bye DEI, are deeply troubling. And I know I'm not the only person who is troubled by them. Like you, I'm sure we know people that are doing really wonderful work. They're doing important work. They're doing backbreaking work to advance social justice. You know, whether you call it diversity, equity, inclusion, or racial justice, gender justice, you know, LGBTQ justice, whatever it is, but that these are folks on the front lines that are doing the thing that we encourage you to do after every episode of the show. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. And that's what these DEI practitioners have been doing. And one of the leading folks in diversity, equity, inclusion, Dr. Shawn Harper, who's a university professor and provost professor of education, public policy, and business at my alma mater, the University of Southern California. He had something to say that I think is worth sharing with you. He recently published an op-ed for time.com entitled "The Human Cost of Trump Firing All Federal DEI Workers," where Dr. Harper says Just days into a second term, President Trump placed federal staff working on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives on paid leave with the intent of eventually laying them all off. Workers who led DEI programs at the University of Texas, University of Florida, and other higher ed institutions located in states where conservative legislators eliminated DEI offices, programs, and positions have also recently lost their jobs. And then there are those workers who've lost their jobs at companies like Walmart, McDonald's, and Meta, who have recently unraveled their DEI efforts. And amidst this dramatic saga, Dr. Harper points out that we too often forget that the professionals who abruptly lost their jobs are people. The overwhelming majority of these workers who lost their jobs are Americans, and many of them are women of color. And as Dr. Harper points out, their humanity deserves compassion and appreciation. You know, immediately after the White House announced that federal DEI workers were being placed on administrative leave, hosts and guests of cable news networks celebrated, saying, "Bye-bye DEI." That was posted on the Fox News Instagram. Now, Dr. Harper points out that perhaps they didn't realize that they were rejoicing the undeserved loss of American jobs. Maybe they didn't understand that those people who spent years, in some instances, decades, attempting to make America truly great for all citizens, suddenly may not be able to afford to pay rent or their mortgages. Some of these workers now won't be able to afford daycare for their kids or elder care for their aging parents, and others have children in college whose tuition payments are suddenly in limbo because of politics. Some will lose their healthcare benefits, and too many of these workers will struggle to find other jobs because of the false narratives that are being told about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now is a terrible time for DEI professionals to find a job. So, as Dr. Harper points out, maybe, just maybe, Trump and other DEI obstructionists didn't fully consider this before they ruined these American workers' careers. Or perhaps they did, but ultimately were more interested in the preservation of an America that isn't equitable or inclusive. Is it possible that Trump wants heterosexual Christian white guys to permanently occupy the majority of top leadership positions in our nation under the guise of merit? We'll let you decide. We'll have to end it there. My thanks to everyone that's helped us to organize this hour. And we got more coming up for you in the next hour right here on A More Perfect Union. Don't go anywhere, because when we come forward, we'll be joined with Richard Lawson, the actor, the phenomenon, the man. I'm really looking forward to being in conversation with him about his body of work and his most recent work with Tyler Perry. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
When do you want me to actually bring him in? Now?
You can bring him in. You can bring him in now if he wants to come in now. What do you think?
Let me see, because
I'm gonna do the first segment.
Oh, okay. So at 5:10?
5:10, you can bring him in.
He can just get himself.
He cool? Cool as a cucumber?